And I said, your hand's always broken. You ain't known for your punching power since you moved up from lightweight to welterweight. Why are you so sure you're going to do this?
Wild, because if you look at Floyd's resume, it's much deeper than Crawford. And Floyd was faster and he had a better defense and all that stuff. But Floyd picked and chose when he fought guys, especially once he left lightweight.
For that, Floyd is the best fighter, in his era. And I feel like I'm the best fighter in my era.
Stephen A. Smith weighed in on Floyd Mayweather's recent comments toward Terence Crawford, stressing that modern boxing often downplays some fighters while overselling others. He argued that Crawford has earned far more recognition based on his resume and elite skill set. Smith also pointed out that age is an undeniable factor. Mayweather is past his peak years, so the conversation shouldn't be about unnecessary comparisons. Instead, the spotlight should remain on Crawford's dominance and what he's accomplishing right now in the sport.
Think about what he had to say about you when he said, you're way better than Floyd Money Mayweather. I know you heard that he said that. What thoughts came to your mind when you heard that Canelo Alvarez said that about you?
Hey, that's a big compliment. He's been in the ring with both of us, so he would know, from his own experience. A lot of people, they can say this, they can say that, but there's only, a few people that can say they've been in the ring with Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather and give their own.
Shane Mosley offered his perspective on comparing Terence Crawford and Floyd Mayweather. He emphasized that Crawford brings natural size and strength to the welterweight division, giving him an advantage that Floyd didn't always have. At the same time, Mosley acknowledged Mayweather's brilliance in technical precision, defensive mastery, and ring intelligence, qualities that consistently helped him overcome bigger and stronger opponents. His view underscored the contrast. Crawford benefits from physical dominance, while Mayweather's greatness was rooted in pure skill and adaptability.
Do you think better out of those two, Crawford or Mayweather?
I think Crawford is better, bigger. He's moving weight class, and I would say Crawford is a better fight all around fighter. Mayweather is really good too, though. You can knock him as well. He's very talented. It would have been a tough fight, but I think Crawford would have the edge over Mayweather because of the long arms and because it's bigger. You know what I'm saying? And he would have kept him at bay. It would have been hard for Mayweather to counter, maybe. But Mayweather's definitely a technician. I mean, like Crawford said, Mayweather has his era, and Crawford, this is his era.
His conversation with Ariel Helwani, Terence Crawford reminded fans that Canelo Alvarez has a rare perspective, having shared the ring with both Floyd Mayweather and himself. Crawford explained that the circumstances of those bouts were completely different. Mayweather met a young, less experienced Canelo years ago, while Crawford faced him as a fully established champion at super middleweight. Even with the size gap, Crawford managed to impose his skills and prove he could compete with a naturally bigger fighter. He added that Canelo, admitting Crawford's power left a stronger impression, only reinforces the idea that greatness should be viewed within the context of each era.
It was cooking right there because there was this thought, this prevailing thought that the smaller man always loses to the bigger man. This was repeated time and again throughout the fight week. And he proved that that's not the case. Again, I hope you all recognize this was a 168-pounder fighting a 147-pounder. He had one fight at 154 last August, was the undisputed king at 147, beating Errol Spence in July of 2023. Came back the following year, fought Israel Madrimov at the soccer stadium in Los Angeles, and then did everything he could to get this fight, played his cards the right way, and there he was, standing face to face against Canelo Alvarez, who did seem for the longest time like he didn't want to take this fight, and because there was great risk involved, because not only is Terence Crawford one of the all-time best fighters in the history of the sport, he's smaller than him, so a lot of people would be like, oh, of course you're going to beat the smaller guy, right? But I think Canelo recognized yeah, he might be smaller, but he's that damn good.
Trainer Greg Hackett offered a contrasting view, stressing that Floyd Mayweather was the definition of a complete fighter when he faced Canelo Alvarez. Hackett explained that Floyd's game at that time was polished, disciplined, and nearly impossible to disrupt. Qualities he feels Terence Crawford's more explosive, reactive style doesn't fully mirror. In his eyes, Crawford thrives on sharp counters and constant adjustments, while Mayweather's strength was flawless execution from the opening bell to the final round. Though Hackett acknowledged Crawford's accomplishments, he maintained that the version of Mayweather who outclassed Canelo set a standard of perfection still unmatched today.
The Floyd Mayweather that Canelo Alvarez fought.
Yeah.
In the last version of Terence Crawford that we've seen in the ring.
Yeah.
Who's the better fighter, Jeff?
Of course you got to give it to Floyd. Floyd at that time. Ben, what's up? Floyd at that time versus Canelo was in total confidence. His skill set, his IQ. You know what I'm saying? Everything he do, he was just a complete fighter that night. But I feel like was up against a lot because he was fighting a guy that we knew something about, but we didn't know too much about. People don't understand how much a fighter could be thrown off by what he don't know. And the reason it throws you off is because you're actually learning about the fighter while you're in there. That's what Bud went up against that night. That's why he didn't look so great. To me, I could be wrong, but he didn't look so great to me because he was learning a lot about Madrimov while he was in there with Madrimov.
Max Kellerman broke down the clear contrast in how Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford managed their careers. According to him, once Mayweather moved past lightweight, he became highly selective, choosing opponents carefully to maximize both strategy and legacy. Crawford, on the other hand, has taken a more open path, rarely hesitating to face whoever was available. This, Kellerman noted, makes Crawford come across as the more daring risk-taker, constantly pushing himself across weight classes and against dangerous challengers. He emphasized that this doesn't diminish Mayweather's legacy, but rather highlights the different paths each man chose to achieve greatness.
It's wild, because if you look at Floyd's resume, it's much deeper than Crawford's. And Floyd was faster and he had a better defense and all that stuff. But Floyd picked and chose when he fought guys, especially once he left lightweight. He wiped out the junior lights, bring him. Lightweight, he jumps up to Jose Luis Castillo first thing. A lot of people think he lost the first fight, I didn't, but then he won the rematch. But once he left lightweight, he was careful about when he fought guys. So even though his resume is deeper with names, people remember, yeah, but he didn't want it with certain dudes at certain times. Crawford, we all witnessed, even though the resume is thin in certain ways, he wanted it with everyone the whole time. Yes. That makes a difference to people.
Terence Crawford has openly expressed that if he ever faced a prime Floyd Mayweather, he believes he would have the edge. He clarified that this view isn't rooted in disrespect, but in self-belief and confidence in his abilities. While Crawford holds deep respect for Mayweather's mastery, he sees his own versatility, punching power, and ability to switch stances as key advantages that could tilt the fight in his favor. For Crawford, the statement isn't about diminishing Floyd's legacy. It's about embracing the competitive mindset that defines what it means to be great in boxing.
Who do you think wins in a fight, you or Prime Floyd?
Me.
No questions?
Why would you think that I would say Floyd? You know, that's one of my favorite fighters. But yeah, nah.
Jeff Mayweather, Floyd's uncle, reminded fans that when Floyd met Canelo, he was already beyond his physical prime. He wasn't as quick or razor-sharp as the younger version who had dominated the lighter divisions. Even so, Floyd relied on his experience and timing to control the fight and clearly outclass Canelo. Jeff pointed out that this context often gets ignored when people draw parallels between Crawford's win over Canelo and Floyd's. In his view, it's important to recognize that Floyd was in decline at that stage, while Crawford is still competing close to his peak, making direct comparisons more complex than they are.
Well, also if we remember, Canelo at that time was a razor-thin decision. Floyd won, majority decision. C.J. Ross had it with what a lot of people had as a draw. And then the other two judges scored it for Floyd, of course. And that was And that was a Floyd at the top of his game with a very green Canelo with very little experience, and he still took him, into deep waters. So
yeah, what was Canelo? What, 20-something? 20 what? 23, 25?
Yeah, he was. Very, very young in the game,
very
obviously.
Young, very young. He had more fights than Floyd, and he lost.
Yeah, but
man, that was 30-something years old, 36.
Well, Floyd was clearly at the top of his career, and Canelo had fought a lot of people, but
How you at the top of your career in your prime? You in your prime? You ain't in your prime when you're at 36. That's not your prime.
Did he lose? I mean,
your prime is in your 20s.
It's different for different people.
Yeah, okay. Well, so and that's why Canelo is saying what he's saying.
To
make himself look like he did something great.
Stephen A. Smith reacted to Crawford's victory over Canelo by calling it one of the most exciting boxing displays in recent years. He emphasized how impressive it was for Crawford, seen as the naturally smaller man, to dominate and outclass a much larger, more established opponent. For Stephen A., the performance wasn't just about skill, but about delivering a true spectacle for the fans. He noted that boxing thrives on fighters like Crawford, who combine elite talent with the ability to make every fight memorable.
50,482 people showed up for this fight. But the biggest props of the night goes to Terence Crawford, who did not disappoint. He was supposed to be the smaller man. He was supposed to be the weaker man. He was supposed to be the man that was going to spend the entire night on his bicycle, running for his damn life because Saul Canelo Alvarez was coming his way. That is not what happened. What happened instead, ladies and gentlemen, was a masterclass in boxing by Terence Crawford. Now, to me, the fight, some people were saying it was just severely lopsided and stuff like that. I'm not going for that. I'm not feeling that at all. It wasn't like that at all, okay? I had the fight 5-4 in favor of Terence Crawford after 9 rounds. It could have gone either way. And then he basically put on a boxing clinic over the last 3 rounds of the fight. And one rounds 10, 11, and 12. He used his jab. He kept his distance. He exchanged when necessary, which is something that I was scared to death of him doing. But he wasn't scared at all. Okay?
Another boxing analyst pointed out that Floyd Mayweather's global reach and undefeated record gave him an unmatched fan base and pay-per-view dominance. Still, when it comes strictly to talent, he suggested that Terence Crawford may actually hold an edge. As a natural southpaw who can fluidly switch stances, Crawford brings an unpredictable style that is difficult to prepare for. His timing, precision, and composure inside the ring allow him to dictate fights in a way that recalls Mayweather, yet with a distinctive flair of his own.
Terence Crawford versus Floyd Mayweather Jr. Who wins this fight? I'm going with Terence Crawford, and I don't think that's unpopular or crazy to say. I think most people will agree with me. I understand Floyd Mayweather has a lot of fans out there, but the truth is, as great as Floyd Mayweather is, Terence Crawford is one of one. And I say that because who else has knockout power in both hands, is able to switch stances between orthodox and southpaw so seamlessly while having great footwork? It's not like Terence Crawford is some stationary target or a flat-footed fighter that's going to be chasing Floyd around. Terence Crawford knows how to cut the ring off. He has tremendous ring IQ. And not only is he a great boxer, but he's a great fighter. He'll be able to make it dirty. If he is on the inside with Floyd, that power will carry him far, and I just don't see how Floyd will be able to beat a Terence Crawford. I really don't see it. I understand Floyd's defense is incredible, but he is smaller than Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford would have a significant reach advantage on Floyd Mayweather. I believe Terence Crawford would also be taller than Floyd Mayweather, as well as all the skillful and technical aspects of what I just laid out prior. So I don't understand how anybody could pick Floyd Mayweather to beat Terence Crawford. Styles make fights, and I believe Terence has the style to beat one Floyd Mayweather. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Whether you agree or disagree, it doesn't matter. Join the discussion, subscribe for more, and leave a like if you enjoyed the time spent. Thank you. You are all appreciated.
Many in the boxing community remain cautious about the ongoing comparisons between Floyd Mayweather and Terence Crawford. They argue that Mayweather's dominance was unique, built on defensive brilliance, unmatched ring IQ, and the ability to control fights with near-surgical precision, qualities no one has fully replicated. Critics also suggest that Crawford's rise is being amplified by fan enthusiasm, with people eager to anoint him as Mayweather's successor. They emphasize that the two men followed very different paths. Mayweather crafted his legacy through defensive mastery and calculated matchmaking, while Crawford thrives on stance switching, aggression, and a willingness to take risks. For these observers, the comparisons tend to overlook those differences, making the debate more about hype than true similarity.
You guys say it with me. Terence Crawford isn't Mayweather. I need you guys to sit here, grab somebody close to you, hold their hand, sit down, say it with me. Terence Crawford is not Floyd Mayweather. They're just both black. That's the only similarities they have. They both black. Terence Crawford loves being hit. The guy likes to scrap. He likes to brawl. Terence Crawford isn't even an Alexander Usyk. This guy loves being hit. He gets a thrill out of it. He sticks his tongue at his opponents when he is hit. Look at that. He enjoys that stuff. He tends to fight with low hands at times. He tends to exchange and brawl in the pocket, plant and fire, despite him having really great feet. Sometimes he likes to sit there and fire. You have Terence Crawford beating Canelo, that's fine. I get you. But don't bring up Floyd Mayweather. No similarities. Floyd was way quicker, way sharper, better defensively, better reflexes, better timing, better IQ, better damn near everything. So say it with me one more time before we go. Terence Crawford, we said it, is not Floyd Mayweather. There we go.
Milestone that sets Terence Crawford apart is his achievement of becoming the first fighter to claim undisputed status in 3 separate weight divisions. This historic accomplishment highlights not only his adaptability, but also his ability to stay dominant across multiple classes. In contrast, Floyd Mayweather never fully unified the belts at welterweight or super welterweight. Crawford's run of collecting every major title has carved out a place in history that belongs solely to him, giving his legacy a distinction separate from Mayweather's.
Terence Bud Crawford defeats Canelo Alvarez and becomes the first ever male 3-division undisputed champion in boxing history. Thank God the judges got this one right. But wow, what a technical battle this was. It was a very close fight, but as it went on, Terence was getting more and more comfortable in there. I remember in the 7th round, he even stood right in front of Canelo and fought him on the inside. Then in rounds 9 through 12, Crawford really started to open up on his flurries, gaining Canelo's respect. But the reason Crawford won this fight was because he was surprisingly durable at 168. He was able to do his thing because for the 36 minutes he was in there with Canelo, he was never really worried about what was coming back at him. I mean, Canelo just kept going to Terence's right side of his body, and that stung a couple times, but those were the really only hard shots Canelo landed. Unfortunately, this is terrible for Canelo's legacy because the smaller men beat him up, and Canelo's kind of been cherry-picking his opponents the last couple years. But well-deserved for Terence Crawford. It's gonna look amazing on his legacy. Boxing got it right tonight. On the biggest stage, with the most eyeballs, no controversy, just pure sport. And one of the best ever at the sport got it done tonight, Terence Bud Crawford.
After his win over Canelo, Terence Crawford reflected on just how seriously he prepared for the challenge. He revealed that his entire training camp was dedicated to building strength and conditioning his body to handle the jump to 168 pounds. Crawford emphasized that the victory was no accident. It was the result of discipline, detailed planning, and confidence in his preparation. His reflections underline how intentional he is about every step of his career, reinforcing the idea that this era of boxing belongs to him.
Everybody was saying, the people that ran with that narrative convinced me that that was a narrative because I don't know the world as much. The thought of not having to lose weight is probably was it how was camp? Good camp.
It was great. You know, it wasn't a camp that we was focused on weight. so we could just focus on my craft and focus on, getting stronger, which we was already strong, but, we don't know what we up against. So, we definitely want to make sure our body is prepared for whatever onslaught Canelo brings. So, of course, we going to, cross our I's and dot our T's. And, that's what we did in training.
You looked unbelievable. You looked absolutely unbelievable. Not that you ever don't, but it's just like, God, this guy looks like he is very prepared. And then as the fight continued, it felt that way. Turkey Al-Sheikh deemed you the fighter of the century. And obviously Ring Magazine and TKO come together to put this incredible event together. What has it been like, with the modern world of boxing now, that Riyadh season has gotten involved? And obviously Dana and Nick Khan of the WWE. And it feels like anything is possible in the boxing world now. Is that the big takeaway that we should think after you and Canelo fight and have the success? Or how do you kind of view it all?
Yeah, for sure. Anything is definitely possible. When a lot of people kept saying that what I was trying to accomplish.
And that wraps up today's video. Thanks for watching, and make sure to stay tuned for more breakdowns, reactions, and boxing updates coming your way.